Welcome to Permission to Evolve. I'm your host, Brandon Thielk, and I'm joined by my co-host and producer, Holly DeShane. How are you doing today, Holly?
I'm pretty good, Brandon. How's it going?
I'm doing great. So I just got done with a 2-day retreat, a little bit outside the city. So it was kind of nice to be out in the country and the elements a little bit more. But yeah, the retreat was called Person of Interest. It's with my coach, Michael Bird. And so what we do is we try and figure out how to become known in the world, make a bigger impact, and how to package our work to be more effective in our communication. So it was a pretty powerful event, just deepening the thought process around how to, get these messages as clear as possible for my audience. It was a very valuable experience. And you had a fun weekend, huh?
Yeah, I had a fun weekend. So aside from like the normal bike run stuff we do, we went to a concert to see my favorite band down in Chicago. So
hmm
yeah, they're Judah and the Lion. I
hmm
would be remiss to not shoot them out. I just love them. Yes.
Have you seen them multiple times at this point?
Yeah, I've seen them a
Yeah.
few times, but yeah, they make a style of music that has just met me wherever I am in my life, depending on what the journey is that we're on. So I think about during COVID, the record they put out then, and last year with the different growth work and things we were working on, it was like it just perfectly met the moment. It's been that way since I started listening to them, I don't know, a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the fun things about music is, obviously it speaks on emotional themes and things we're going through. And yeah, it just makes us feel so much more seen and that we're not alone with things, right? I think
Right.
that's kind of the main thing behind music that really draws us in. It's that emotional relationship. So that's very cool. Yeah, does it
Yeah.
get better each time you see them?
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Today we're going to be talking about the gift of adversity, and so this is trying to find the life lessons, the treasures, and the struggle with adversity. Generally, these aren't things we're welcoming. Generally, it's I'm on this path, I'm pursuing something, and unexpected things come in that maybe throw me off track or make me question my path and bring up self-doubt or things like that. Looking back on my journey, it's you don't willingly want to take on these extra things, but that it's actually generally what you need is what I've found is it forces you to look at weaknesses. It forces you to look at aspects of your life that might need some extra work that you probably wouldn't do any other way. So with permission to evolve, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set our sight on a brighter future, whatever that is for you. As we go to move towards that, there's going to be aspects from our past that are going to be coming up to show us what we believe. This is going to be the limitations we've formed based on things that have happened in our past. This is more about the judgment of our past. That's where we start to hammer things into our nervous system to tell us that, hey, this isn't safe, or I'm not worthy enough to pursue this, or I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough, fill in the blank. The experiences that come up and really challenge us is really that journey to really an external reflection of the internal. So we're pulling up these things that we need in our environment that are going to force us to do the work that we've been avoiding. With adversity, it's generally there's a reluctance because there's some pain here, there's some heavy things associated with it. And to overcome it, we have to become more. We have to build ourselves. We have to see ourselves differently. We have to formulate a new identity of who I want to be and who I'm becoming. It's this growth mindset to view these challenges as a necessary part of the journey, that it's actually there to serve us. And these are the gifts that are going to give us the abilities and skills to reach this ultimate potential. It's a fun topic because our nervous system generally wants to avoid these things. We try to go around the challenges when often it's not necessarily like we have to overpower or go through things, but it's more of we want to be able to see it differently and we want to ask deeper questions about why that's showing up for me and what I actually need to learn about this. Generally, the uncomfortable things, the frustrations, those things that we don't want to look at are going to be exposed on this journey we're taking. It's going to come through in the form of problems. It's pretty interesting to see that doing this work to see how these things are almost predictable, especially if we're on an accelerated growth path, is we don't get to be comfortable very long. We might have a breakthrough and we might feel good for a little bit. And then A couple days later, it's, oh, I got my next challenge, right?
Yeah.
Has that been
Yep.
your experience, Holly?
Yeah, I would say so in the last year. Yes.
I kind of see these things as a testament to the goals and ambitions you have and who you are as a person. This is quite literally how we build resilience. So, resilience is the ability to work through challenges. We want to build this mental framework that allows us to see the challenge in a different way so that we can move through it at an accelerated pace. Because when the challenging things come, there is that tendency to be like, oh, well, why did this happen to me? And we can shift very easily into a bit of a victim mindset of things are happening to us rather than for us. That's the mental shift, is if I'm struggling with something and if I'm viewing it from the place of a victim, that problem is never going to really resolve. I'm not going to learn the lessons, the skills, the abilities I need to actually conquer it and overcome. It's this willingness to take these things on, as hard as it may be. We do this through mental, emotional adjustments. We have to have an open mind. Anytime I'm trying to force something, I'm probably going to want to look a little bit deeper at that.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I know we're talking about adversity, but I was thinking about this actually earlier today while I was thinking about prepping for this. I was having this thought about defining adversity a little bit. It could be a problem coming up, but when I was sort of reflecting, like, well, what adversity have I had in my life? I certainly have had some, for sure, but there are varying levels. Like, I haven't personally experienced like a major health scare, for example. Same with my husband. We've been relatively healthy. And some people point to huge events of adversity as being the life-changing moments for them. I just thought maybe we could talk about, yes, those are things that could happen, but just in your day-to-day, there could be these adversity moments and sort of creating this. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing to be adversity.
Everything's kind of on this spectrum. There's varying degrees. Trauma is a big one. It's like, oh, this shook my entire life up, or this was just something that really made me question myself. There's varying degrees to all these things. But adversity is simply, it's a roadblock or challenge that is unexpected. So I'm moving in this direction and maybe I'm feeling optimistic. Maybe I'm feeling like I can start to predict the things that are going to happen next, which none of us have that power. So basically our mind's always projecting these past expectations into the future, depending on the path I'm on. If I'm living day to day, not having much expansive thinking going on, comfort's probably going to be our adversity. It's going to be like, oh, this triggered me, or this was uncomfortable, or this person, said something I didn't like. That would probably be the magnitude there. But then, if we have these bigger goals, ambitions, like, oh, I'm trying to be the best in the world at something, or I'm trying to shift careers or relocate to a new place. So when we do the big transitions, or we have the big things we're shooting for, generally we have to dismantle so much of our past thinking in order to level up. What's going to happen there, it's really going to be, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to follow some sort of, maybe I have like a plan that I've laid out that I'm going to start taking steps towards that. Business and entrepreneurship is kind of one of those things where you kind of learn to expect the unexpected, and you can't really start to formulate, I know this, and this is going to happen, because the rug gets pulled all the time. And what you learn is those things they're serving you on some level. They're serving your development, because what I teach especially is this, to be dynamic. We need the skills and abilities to be okay no matter what. I want to be present as much as possible with whatever situation I'm dealing with. And if I'm too much in the analytical or planning, I'm going to be trying to manipulate things for a specific outcome. And that might be limiting my opportunities in a big way. I'm trying to predict everything before it comes. And there is some degree of playing it safe there, that we're not allowing actually new experience into the equation, which is generally what we need to really connect in with ourselves and to go deeper, to really impact in a bigger way, is we need a transformation. So in adversity, it's a challenge of your thinking. It's as you move towards something, the unexpected popping in and being, I have this problem, but that's my only way through, is to actually figure this out. We need this expanded mindset of seeing different angles on problems. We need to be able to try and identify what this piece is teaching me. Why is this roadblock here? Everything with this work, we're trying to understand ourselves at a deeper level. Really, the only way we do that is through some sort of mirror. So I need to have things that stop me in order for me to take a moment and reflect and be like, okay, how do I overcome this? Because if not, we're all just simply operating in patterns that are very predictable, what I consider safe based on my past experience. So I just keep running around in circles. I'm going to try and build my environment to be, oh, this is the same thing every day. I'm kind of the anti-coach for that stuff. I'm not a habits person. I'm not just keep doing the same thing every single day. I'm more of a, hey, let's live life. Let's meet these challenges. Let's work through them. Let's get stronger, because, that's where your mind really starts to look at things much differently. When you kind of see, I commonly say, like, every time I get sick, every time something unexpected happens, I might be upset temporarily, but it's just, okay, immediately it's what is this teaching me? So I view it with, this is going to help me level up in some way. I don't know the big picture, but I know I don't want a predictable future, because the predictable future means I just continuously recreate the past over and over again in various ways. It's a bit of a mind trick, but subconsciously, that's what the uncomfortable feelings are. That's challenging our current level of thinking. And many of us just want to be comfortable all the time. We want to be around groups of people that think exactly like we do, right? We want the safe, secure financial situation. We want all these different things. My question's always like, yeah, on some level, we need a little bit of that, but do you want your entire life to be that? Because if not, we don't see a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment in that arena, because everything just kind of starts to feel the same. We're here to experience things, and we do that through emotions, and we do that, and it's progress is what brings us the biggest level of fulfillment, and there's many career paths where we have this charted progress laid out for us, like, okay, I'm manager, director, whatever it is, right? It's just
Sure.
like, oh,
Yep.
I just have to keep doing this work for an extended period of time. And so I think that's easier for people to wrap their mind around, but we may climb that ladder, and we may get to the top of it and maybe well, I don't even like this. Or what am I doing?
Sure.
Or I thought this was going to actually make me happy, but maybe I feel like I wasted a ton of years of my life pursuing something. So that's why we want the challenges, is because they open us up in unexpected ways that we can't really forecast. But is this getting to know yourself on a deeper level? You give yourself a better shot of aligning with things that are more authentic for you, that are true to your nature, that aren't kind of the typical, oh, I did what I was supposed to do type of thinking. And at adversity, to kind of sum that up, it's challenging your past thinking. That's what we're looking at. And that's going to be representative of things showing up in your day-to-day that cause stress for you, that discomforts, because we want to manipulate and adjust things outside ourselves so that we feel calm and comfortable again. But my philosophy is we build the things internally so I can be okay no matter what.
When you think about the examples of adversity bringing growth, I think you just touched on one. There's career pathing growth that could happen. But let's just talk through a few examples where the adversity brings a really tangible gift, or reframes that differently, I guess.
Well, for instance, I've done a lot of work with triathletes, and one client in particular, the swim's very challenging for them. My challenge to this client is, okay, let's dive in head first. It's going to be very hard, but at the end of this, you're going to have a lot of grit. You're going to have a lot of resilience. You're going to be able to fighting through the struggle is going to build you into the person you want to become. That's not an easy thing to welcome. It's being insecure. It is feeling like a fish out of water. It is all these, it's just going into the cave you fear, that's generally the one you need. So for me, upcoming, it's going to be things like public speaking. I haven't been doing much of that. This is me getting on camera on a regular basis, like the podcast. Next would be getting on a stage, starting to do that work on a regular basis. And I can make a pretty comfortable living in this format, but that's going to be an amplifier, is if people can experience me in person.
Yeah.
There's reluctance there. And so for me, it's I kind of operate as I know that when I'm ready, I'll take that journey. And so all that stuff's fastly approaching right now, where I think this is where I'm heading pretty quickly. Working with groups, working with bigger, maybe even be able to work a crowd. That's kind of my development, as I've always seen it, is I want to be able to walk into a room of 500 people and coach people on the spot in front of everyone. That's my preparation process. It's exposing myself to those stresses. And as my mind starts to think about, okay, these are my next steps, I know that there's going to be opportunities that are going to present themselves, and there's going to be some fear, anxiety associated with those. It's that ability to step through it and meet those things despite the uncomfortable feelings, because that's me stepping into who I want to become. I think we all have a version of that. And it could be in a relationship of I'm avoiding the tough conversations. We keep having these repeat problems over and over again. Maybe I might have a people pleaser mindset where I'm just kind of go with the flow, but it's increasingly making things more difficult. There might be a moment where the opportunity presents itself where it's kind of a wake up call. There could be make or break stuff in that realm of I either find my voice here or I might be miserable for quite a while. It's meeting those challenges of the problems are coming in to show you where you need to do the work of them constantly, and the justifying them away or blaming somebody else or whatever it is. We either willingly take on the challenges. When I'm talking about that, it's more of a high performer mindset of I'm going to do the things that scare me. I'm going to do the things that I don't really want to do, but I know I have to do. And on the more subtle level, it's going to be, well, the things in your life, what needs tending to, what have you been avoiding? And those problems, they start small and they keep growing and growing and growing. And there generally is some sort of breaking point with these things where it's just, okay, you got to face this. That's where, yeah, we might have like big health challenges. We might have questioning everything that's going on in my life. If I'm not looking at it on a regular basis, the suppressed energy is just building up continuously. So it needs a pressure release. So that's going to be showing up in challenges in our life. We need that mirror. You can't run from these things. You can't do it forever. That's for sure. You can ignore them for a while, but everything has these qualities where the energy stacks up the more I suppress it. It might be the thing I dread the most is the thing I have to do. And it can be the biggest game changer. If I have the tough conversation, if I just sit in that tension and try and get an understanding of myself and the other person in this dynamic, that could transform a relationship from that point forward. We have to see these as the growth opportunity. We have to see it as like, well, I haven't been working this muscle. It's shut down. All these things behind it. I'm doing that because I want everything to remain the same. I want it to be predictable. I want to be comfortable. In that process, what's happening actually is every time I am feeling uncomfortable, me not meeting that challenge or adversity, I'm stuffing that down and I'm suppressing it, and it's actually numbing out. So I'm numbing out my feeling sensation. So I'm getting disconnected from the answers that I need in order to create a better life. And we commonly have this in the medical community. It's like all these pills are to suppress things, to shut down the sensation of if you have anxiety, take the pill and now you feel it less. The feeling's still there. It's just like you're numbing it. All these things build and we can numb them for quite a while, but there is just this breaking point. How big do I want the problems to be? That's always the question is, do I want to be more conscious about my life? If I do that, I'm basically taking this journey where I'm increasing my sensitivity so that if I feel something, I go to work on it to try and understand what's going on there and I try to improve it. The further along I get on that path through the sensitivity, like I'm going to notice things as soon as they're off. It becomes a daily practice of, I don't like how this is, so I'm going to work on it. Those are the habits I like to build, is pay attention to what you feel. If something's off, we want to address that before it grows into something else. So if I'm not addressing it, if things are stacking up, the more it stacks up, the nervous system wants to avoid it. It's suppressing it. And we do that with our mind. If I'm lying to myself, if I'm not being honest, I'm going to be justifying away a lot of these situations. I might be living out of integrity. I might have a poor value system. I might be hurting a lot of other people around me. But if I'm telling myself it's okay all the time, I'm not getting the gifts. I'm not learning the lessons. And that's where life can get pretty sticky because you start creating a lot of problems that you're not aware of. We can't get very self-absorbed. We can't get very numb to how we're affecting other people. And then relationships, they pretty much just fall away at a certain point. If somebody's coming to you and they're not able to resolve the problems, there's going to be a point where, everybody in your life might start to leave you. It's all these things, the hard truths, the challenges, no matter what type of life you're living, it serves us to kind of get our shit together, to take a look and be like, yeah, hey, this sucks. I've been avoiding it for a long time and it's going to take some work, but that work that's going to get me on my way. That's going to allow me to move forward. we may start to adopt the high performer mindset of, yeah, I'm going to face this because I have to. Do I need that for massive amounts of pain? It starts as little pain and then we numb out and then it comes into big pain, okay, where we can't avoid it. And then it's like, okay, my life's kind of a disaster, so I have to look at this. Or can I just like find this rhythm where it's just, okay, I'm working
Yeah.
on these things on a regular basis, so nothing's growing too much. And there's going to be some things you get blindsided by. There's going to be the rug that gets pulled here and there. But those are all to kind of pull you deeper into yourself. Okay, what expectation did you have that's out of alignment? What were you thinking that was going to happen? Because the further we are off track, our path, it does become a lot about manipulation of like trying to get other people around us to do the things we want them to do. There may be a point where everybody gets fed up with that and stops. That's where truth is really going to hurt, because it's just, oh, everybody's been acting fake to me. I haven't had true feedback. You see this like a lot with, I mean, the entitlement pattern is going to be more of, I'm used to people doing things for me. I'm not doing any of the reflection work. If people stop doing that, like I haven't developed any of the skills necessary to get anywhere in life. We need this true feedback. And a lot of times, we think we're helping people by going along with some of these patterns. It's really kind of handicapping somebody. They're not getting the feedback they need to learn and grow. That's why I'm curious to see like things with the younger generations. There's a lot of problems being solved for them. How is that going to look long term? That could be interesting. Because the challenges, the adversities, the things we overcome, we build the resilience, and then that ultimately builds confidence. Like, I know how to carry myself in the world. I'm doing it in a way that's clean, where I'm not hurting other people around me. And I can really start to create a reality I'm proud of from that place, because I'm doing everything in a way that's grounded in integrity. As I build that up, there's very little pieces that you can knock that structure down, right? Like
Right.
if we're building that solid foundation, so much more can expand from that place. Partly it's getting real with yourself. It's generally adversity is going to be that piece. So it's going to bring you so many gifts if you're willing to welcome it. But if you get rescued or saved every time there's a problem from somebody outside yourself, that's a huge disservice, because now you're not learning what you need to learn. You're not getting true feedback. You're not actually functioning in a grounded reality. You start to become more and more delusional from that place.
How do you feel about like self-imposed kind of adversity things or major challenges? As somebody who regularly signs up to do really hard physical things, how do you take into account that kind of adversity as opposed to, say, relationship adversity or challenges maybe in a work environment or something like that?
Well, so the self-imposed stuff, I think it's generally going to be, I think it originates on, there's some void or emptiness or some source of pain initially, where I'm going to go put myself in these really challenging situations. I'm going to try and push my limits to discover more about what's going on within me. There's kind of a part that could like love the pain initially of that. I think we've talked about that. It's this curiosity of, I know if I go do this really difficult thing, my mind might unlock that place that I need to learn about. Because as I'm pushing against these barriers, especially endurance sports, like there is this kind of place where the mind goes a little bit dark, and that we gain like a lot of insights there. We gain, I'm pushing my limits so much that I don't have the energy to suppress it anymore. It starts to creep up to the surface when I might not be able to access it any other way. My thing there is, we always want to be listening. And if something's like being generated from within, that had to come from some place. These are all internal things. Our mind suppresses and represses a lot that we might not be fully conscious of. And the willingness to dive into painful situations, might be a self-discovery exercise. My challenge there is, it's like, let's do that. Let's get the knowledge. Let's get the understanding. Let's work on it. And then we can start to do it from more of a clean place of like, I'm doing this because I might have some purpose attached to it, or I enjoy it. Because the pain, if we're not properly transforming that pain, if we're always just motivated by that, eventually that's going to hit a place of burnout, because it's not sustainable. And generally the body might start to lock up. If I start to hit on in some intense fears that are stored within me, there might be a point where my body's like really fighting against it. So we've talked about this before, we need that reflective mode happening, because if I'm pushing, that's more that fight or flight. I'm not getting the level of access I can if I'm going like kind of deeper in reflection. You talked this week about you had an experience with like a hypnotist, right?
Yeah, I did.
And that's going like deeper into, okay, so I'm pushing the boundaries, it's activating these things, and then I can settle back in a calm, peaceful, supportive environment. And hopefully I get some insights into what's going on there so I can actually heal it. And healing is going to be able to it's going to be shifting our mind about what's going on underneath it, all that stuff. So how do I find peace with this thing that maybe has been like unconsciously driving me for a very long time? When we talk about relationship, things like that, so I view relationship as it's a mirror for us to experience ourselves as well. So generally, if you have people that are they're attracted to each other, that's because this person's going to bring out our wounds that we need to resolve in order to love ourselves. This mirror, if there's aspects of myself that I'm avoiding, that's going to be showing up in another person, and that's going to be driving me nuts. That's where I can point my finger and say, it's them, it's them, it's them. But really, it's affecting me internally. So there's something for me to learn in that equation. If we're talking about a work situation, there's going to be challenging characters. Anytime so much like a relationship, who's in our environment, there's going to be the people we get along with really well. There's going to be people that are challenging. There's going to be people that are pretty neutral. And that variety, that's what's going to come up in our day-to-day experience is I'm over here and this person's easy and this feels good to me, meaning we resonate and we have similar interests or we can communicate well, but then this person, maybe they're a complete opposite personality or they're a challenging personality or they're very shut down emotionally. So I don't know how to get through to them. So those are adversities that might be the roadblock that's like stopping me from becoming more is the challenging person. I might want to look a little bit deeper. Like, why is this person so challenging for me? What about it? Because if they're triggering things within you, that's unresolved stuff from your past. And the things their behaviors they're exhibiting, it's an example of something you need to resolve from probably a caregiver or something earlier in your life. And we do this work constantly where it's, what does that remind you of? And then it's always linked to other things. These things don't come from nowhere. We have to already have the framework that's got the unresolved issues for this person to even be challenging to us. Because the challenge is my mind's telling me I need to protect myself from something. And usually it's not right now. Usually I'm protecting myself from something from my past. That type of problem, we want to stick with it and we want exposure to the stress. So the person that's challenging for us to work with, we want to have some curiosity there. We want to get to know them a little bit better. We want to try different things to try and get through to that person. That's going to be giving us insights into ourselves as well. They're going to be showing me behaviors that I have a hard time with. Everything with this work, we're not manipulating. We're not trying to control other people. We're trying to learn about ourselves and become resilient in those situations. And in that process, we gain skill sets. So if I'm having a hard time communicating with somebody, by me working that puzzle, I'm going to become a better communicator. I'm going to be able to adapt and work with many different types of people because I work through those challenges. If I don't meet that, that's going to stall my development because I'm not stepping into the problem. I'm not questioning it at a deeper level. And so my mind closes off to that. And we just operate from, I need to protect myself from somebody like this. And so I'm not going to like them. Everything is, we're trying to neutralize it. We're trying to get it to a place of acceptance of like people can be whoever they're going to be. And we don't need them to be a certain way in order for us to be happy and fulfilled in our life. Everything the ego wants to control, the ego is always externally focused. And so they need to change, not me. We're reversing that. We change internally, and then we experience that person differently in a way that feels better, that we start to experience a different side of that person because we're no longer trying to protect ourselves. Because when we're in that protection mode where something's triggered, our expectations are well formed, meaning I'm already like deciding what this person's going to do before they even do it. Okay, so I'm not actually living life. I'm not allowing other people to live their lives. I'm operating of, I know how this person is, and I put them in this box of judgment. Then I try to create workarounds from that place. That's going to be a limitation. Generally, when we do that work. We try to understand why that's a challenge for us. We don't need that person to change. What you'll notice a lot of times is circumstances around you will change as you start to master these things internally. So once I learn the lesson from that situation, that person might leave, they might go to a different department. I might not experience them anymore because I work the puzzle. So now I'm no longer resonating at that level to learn that lesson. A lot of times you'll see as I work out the internal pieces in me, the problems start to resolve themselves. So I'm not a massive action person most of the time because it's in this reflection mode that we can solve a lot of problems without actually doing anything. We're reworking how we show up. And in that place, our external kind of mirrors different things to us. It's not the same problem anymore. Once I learn the lesson, I've got it, so I can move forward. And there's going to be new lessons for me to learn. So that's generally going to be experienced in a different way.
When you talk about problems sort of solving themselves through this work, I'm wondering if you have any examples that you could share related to that.
So what's interesting is this is tough to come up with examples because once the problems get solved, you kind of just let them go, and it's like they don't even exist anymore. That's what's so interesting about this work. Is as you're moving forward, you're fixated on something, some sort of problem, and then once you get the insight into it, it's just not even in your awareness anymore. Many of the problems and struggles we're facing, it's all an internal thing. It's only a problem because we feel bad. Once you start to discover why that is and you start to adjust yourself, I can be at peace with something, and now I don't feel like I have to do anything. It's an interesting thing because I've worked this thousands of times at this point. When those moments happen, people ask me, if I'm struggling with something and I was talking to somebody about it, they'll be like, well, okay, what happened there? I'm like, I don't know. I worked it out within myself and now I don't even care about it anymore. That's kind of the interesting thing about this. And I guess the example would be those instances where there's a really challenging person and I kept working on it. Then that person just kind of disappeared out of my life for one reason or another. This could be maybe a friend or an old relationship or acquaintance or things like that, where it's not as like tangible because once you dissolve it within you, you free up that energy where your mind like no longer thinks about it anymore. And so what you do is you're actually like returning your mindset to the present moment because the problem is actually representative of your past. When you discover what you're still holding on to from your past, you unlock that energy and now it's just like you're here. Okay. And we've talked a number of times where it's like most of the time, like there's like literally nothing going on in my mind at this point. As I'm taking action and like new things come up, now it's like, oh, okay, this problem's here and it feels uncomfortable. And I'm just going to keep working on it until like I feel at peace with it. And then it feels like it never happened or if it was a long time ago. It's really trippy, kind of the more you do this work, where the problem is always just an internal thing. And when I have that unlock, basically my mind it's not trying to protect me anymore. It expands and I start to see the situation differently. Everything recalibrates. And now I basically exit that pattern. I'm shifting out of something. Maybe a good one for me is my relationship with baseball. I guess it's like, it was something I had so much passion for. And then ultimately that started to lead to a lot of pain, all the disappointment, letdown, and things like that. It's at the point now where it feels like another life. It feels like I never even think about it. I don't even like care about it. I'll hardly like connect to it or watch a game. Like it just doesn't feel like it's like me anymore. It was in the striving, the pain was like representative of so many other things. So it was not feeling good enough. It was kind of more reflective of relationship with caregivers, authority figures, people like that, of feeling like I wasn't measuring up or I wasn't worthy, good enough, deserving, those types of things. As you like resolve those pains, that problem, it just kind of dissolves where it's just, oh, that's, I don't even like identify with it anymore because it doesn't even feel like it's my life. So that representation of, oh, I can be really present now. A good example of this is the high school athlete that was like the star in high school. And you see him at the bar 40 years later and they're still like talking about the glory days, right?
Right.
They never left that moment mentally and emotionally. It sticks with them everywhere they go. And I guess that's one of the things. I have a hard time talking about my past because there's so much of it I don't care about anymore because that was that time. And unless I'm interacting with somebody from that phase of my life or something reminds me of it, A lot of that stuff, it's kind of way back there where because I've stripped a lot of the negative emotion out of it, I'm not bringing my past to the table anymore. I've kind of integrated it. It's hard to pick things out of this is the specific example of this situation because there's not stuck energy related to that. It's almost like a non-issue. The gift in all that is by working through those challenges and uncomfortable feelings, that's where I develop compassion for other people that are going through those things. And that's how I can guide them through it. I've transformed those aspects of myself into kind of this clean, neutral energy where it's just, yeah, I experienced it and I gained wisdom from it. Remember, wisdom's this emotional understanding. So I took it from the negative to the positive and I extracted gifts from those situations. It's no longer, I can really be objective when I'm interacting with somebody that's struggling with some of those problems because I can just be like, oh, well, yeah, this is what I did to navigate out of that. That's kind of the perspective that I operate from. When you get there, it is a detachment. This is an easy problem for me to solve because I've done that work. I can empathize because I remember when I felt that way, but I don't necessarily have those feelings attached to it anymore. I can help guide somebody out of that.
Yeah. Awesome. So, several podcasts we've talked about self-talk. So curious if you're thinking about you're going through a struggle of some sort, how the self-talk might show up in those moments.
So our self-talk is going to be a reflection of the unresolved aspects of my past. So there's going to be limiting beliefs about myself that are going to be coming up. It's going to come in the form of self-doubt, anxieties, fears, catastrophizing, thinking worst case scenarios. It could be in the all or none thinking, which we talked about recently, of just very polarized. I only see things one way. If I'm engaged on that level and I'm seeing it one way, I'm never going to solve that problem. I'm just going to be stuck in continuing to form stronger limiting beliefs around it. That's why we have to go deeper because that level of our mind can't solve that problem. If we've been struggling with something our entire life, the answers aren't going to be in us thinking about it over and over again. We need new perspectives. We need a new way of seeing it. We need to be able to distance ourselves from the situation. So that's like kind of the self part. I can get in a calm, comfortable setting and I can ask deeper questions about that. I'm starting to create that space to allow me to possibly see things differently. And if something's actively triggered within me, basically I'm being confronted with my past where it's like front and center and I can't see any other way. When that trigger's there, that's where we need guidance to maneuver out of it, or we need to be able to set it down and revisit it when we're in a calmer, more centered place, because that's when I can start to inquire about it. I can ask, what is this showing me? Why is it still painful? What about this person bothers me? Where did that come from? Who does this person represent in my life that was a challenging person? And generally, we're just replaying old wounds. And what happens is when we have all this stuff from the past, now we're projecting it onto this new situation. I'm going to give it new names. It's going to be new characters and new people. I'm going to be saying, oh, it's that. We're going to think it's the present, but we're really just applying judgment from our past onto that person. So that's a projection, is I'm taking this and they represent something that makes me feel uneasy or uncomfortable or gives me anxiety. It's some sort of behavior they're showing. We don't live in a bubble. We have to learn how to navigate this stuff because it's just like, well, why is this person driving me nuts? I need to be able to ask, because if there's a huge charge behind it, it's probably got nothing to do with that person. It's probably there's something painful that happened at one point and you're operating from that place. That's where all that energy is coming from. We get caught in these cycles and it is kind of trippy. It is to be like, oh, well, it's actually something this person's doing that represents a bigger thing in my past. That's really what it is every time. And once we handle that, we can let this other person off the hook because we're freeing up energy from the past. We're letting it go because we're learning the lesson. And that's the adversity is to learn the lesson. The challenge is to learn the lesson. The lesson is always it's actually an unlearning, which is kind of a paradox. But we deepen our learning by forming limiting beliefs and judgments. So I'm going to have these negative beliefs that I'm going to carry with me. And as I'm carrying those, I'm going to be experiencing life in a certain way. So this would be, somebody that's very jaded or resentful or pessimistic, right? That's all energy from their past. And they've formed this way of seeing situations and they can't see any other way. The way they're seeing these situations is quite literally that's what's making them miserable. I free myself up by questioning that. I free myself up by being like, okay, well, yeah, why is this so intense for me? And then that's in the deeper layers and levels, we have to, okay, how can I see this differently? A lot of times it's like understanding the person where the wound originated with. It's understanding that person on a deeper level. So generally for somebody else to hurt us in some way, they had to be hurt to begin with. We don't come here intentionally wanting to do those things. It's more of a product of what happened to them and them not working those things out. And then they keep transferring the pain. It's this chain that happens if we got hurt by something. So if I don't deal with that, the odds of me doing that to somebody else. So I have two options. I'm either going to continue to transfer that pain, or I'm going to build all these limitations around that situation where anybody that represents it, I'm going to kick them out of my life, or I'm going to try and avoid them, or I try to create all these workarounds. So it's either I transfer the pain. If I don't want to become that, then I usually suppress myself and shut myself down. So now I'm not moving forward in life. I'm not taking risks. I'm not doing the things I need to do because I don't know any other way. Because I think that the way to get further is to maybe hurt somebody, and I don't want to become that. It's either transfer it, shut ourselves down, or this way is, okay, I'm going to examine the situation. I'm going to try to learn about it at a deeper level, and I'm going to try and let it go. And so that means I'm going to try to shift my perspective in a way that I depersonalize it. Okay, they hurt me, but it was because they were hurt. If it wasn't me, it probably would have been somebody else. That's their way they were coping with it. It wasn't actually a personal thing. And if there's anything I was doing in that process, we want to take ownership of that too. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all do things we're not aware of fully. That's that challenge. If I'm not sitting and reflecting, if I'm not working these puzzles, all these things, they just kind of keep happening over and over again until we're ready to look at them. They don't go away. We can suppress them long enough, but the problems keep building. So it's just the energy's there regardless. The energy needs channels to move through. If it's suppressed, it's going to be spilling out in other ways. You'll see this a lot, people that, let's say like a drinking problem or something like that. Somebody might become a totally different person when they drink, right? And that just means there's all these suppressed things that they're not dealing with that when they numb out enough, that stuff starts spilling out, okay?
Sure.
So it's all there. And that's we just want to adopt some version of self-aware practices to be okay, how can I get a handle on some of these things? It doesn't have to be intensive. I think the first kind of guideline is how do I live more in integrity where, maybe I'm not doing things that are detrimental to other people. I think that's a good kind of baseline to operate from. If I have some big dreams and desires, right, then it's just well, I need to do away with some of these programs that maybe say that I need to manipulate things to get what I want, because that's going to be that operating from manipulating situations, hurting other people, walking all over people. We keep trying to build this framework and this filter that allows us to create a path forward in a way that allows us to get to the bottom of it. So when we get to that point that we've been working so hard for, we're not miserable when we get there. Because you can get there, you can still feel that emptiness. You can get there and still have the void. Through this process, we get there, and it might take a little bit longer, but we're doing it in a clean way that's actually going to allow us to enjoy the things we want once we get there. So it's a long game we play here, but how do I do this in a way that doesn't make me become all the things that I hate as well?
Right.
Because all these things are subconscious. If stuff was done to me and I'm not working on that, now I'm probably going to be doing that to other people in some way, shape, or form. That's just the nature of these things. It's how it works. It's where the energy has to have somewhere to go. And we can suppress it long enough, but then it does spill out in other ways that maybe we're not proud of. It's getting real with all that stuff. And we're going to have shame locked away there. And the shame's the big one, where it doesn't allow us to feel, it doesn't allow us to move forward. We basically tie ourselves in knots because we can't forgive ourselves, but then it's also, we can't forgive other people. It's just every move we make, it kind of leaves a spin in our wheels.
So if we could wrap on a little bit of the adversity part of this, your kind of closing thoughts on the adversity side and that leading into the resilience piece for people, what would be the call outs that you would give?
I would say the main thing is you can't really avoid it. at some point, you're going to have to face things. We get to choose whether we want to do that willingly or if we want to do that when it becomes a bigger, harder problem to solve that maybe has a lot of complex details to it. And the adversity, it's this push for growth. It's this push like, okay, I was moving in this direction and these things came up, and there's a tendency to maybe go to a victim place of this is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. Or we could shift to, okay, why is this happening and what do I need to learn about it? And if we take that journey, there's always that path forward. And it might take some work. It's going to take, some hard truths usually. I'm going to have to look at, why does this keep happening to me? And that's another one is people that have bad luck. It's kind of like, well, there's things that are happening that they're not aware of, that they keep recreating patterns over and over again. It's this deepening our awareness of, hey, why is this happening? What can I do about it? The only thing we can ever do about any of this stuff is we can transform it within ourselves. So this work doesn't really need anybody else in terms of if I change my relationship with something going on internally, meaning I'm working through the emotions and processing them. I'm trying to let things go. I'm trying to move them along, because if I'm fixated on something that is locked up or stuck, that doesn't allow me to move forward. So me holding on to things, that's to my own detriment. There are some things that do seem insurmountable and are extremely challenging. It's hard to reconcile. And that's generally where we want to seek outside help. We need people that can offer perspectives that can start to shift our mind a little bit about things, because we might be too close to the picture. We might be too zoomed in on things. Ultimately, we want to get to this place where we see these things for our development. There's something that's calling attention. If I'm able to meet that and work through it, there's going to be gifts there. There's going to be some skills that I develop. There's going to be some insights. Hopefully, there's going to be some compassion that we develop as well, where we can start to connect some dots from our past, which also helps us move forward in a better way. So it's really just about returning our power back. And the way we're going to build our power back, because if we've given it away, is we're going to have to work through challenges to upgrade our mindset. Everything comes from that place. How I'm seeing the situation has a direct impact on how it feels in my body. The more intense it feels, the more pain I have stored. It would really serve anybody to do that work and to unpack some of those things, because ultimately the only one we're hurting is ourselves. And adversity, it's just shifting our relationship to, why do these things come up? How can I see it differently? What is this here to show me? What can I learn about myself? That's what's going to set us on that growth path. That's what's going to help resolve the issues that might be continuously coming up. It's about creating a greater self-awareness. When we're in pain, we have less and less self-awareness, meaning I become self-absorbed and I don't see what's going on around me. I don't see how I'm impacting people around me. It's kind of creating this opening where we can start to experience and feel life again. And then we can also make some conscious choices from that place. If I'm numb to everything, I don't really have feedback to pull from. The feedback is through how I feel. I want to be in tune with that, because that's what allows me to create that new future, that brighter future that we're talking about.
It's awesome. So good. All right. We talk about this at the end of every podcast, but if somebody wants to work with you one-on-one or work with you on a different level than just listening to the podcast, or kind of where would you send them, or how do you want to talk about how people can connect?
Yes, if you'd like to go deeper, so I do free one-to-one strategy sessions. You can book that on my website, brandonthielk.com. It's just a half hour of us kind of sit down and trying to figure out what you got going on and where you want to head in your life. I offer one-to-one coaching. I work with groups and teams. I also have a group coaching program called the Lightning Lab, and it's evergreen, so you can join anytime. With that, you get 3 months of group coaching. Each month has 2 teaching sessions, so we'll go deeper into these concepts. There's also one Q&A session per month where I go through and coach you on the specifics of what you're dealing with. And then there's also weekly exercises that includes these reflection questions that we're always talking about, so that you can start to work on these things. And there's also a community function, so you can interact with others in the group. If you want to follow me at Evolved Athlete, I post there pretty regularly. And I think that's it. If you're interested, if you like what you hear here, let's have a conversation and maybe go deeper.
We'll make sure that all the social handles, including the YouTube and everything, are noted in the show notes. Yeah, this has been really great, Brandon. I don't know if it's worth teasing out for anybody who makes it to the end of this episode, but the next one we're going to be together in the same place.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
You've never been in Nashville before, right?
Not in a very long time. And the last time I was there, it was like for a conference, and I never left the hotel. So I wasn't, I was there, but not really.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So I'm excited for you to come down and excited to do an in-person podcast episode.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.